Okay, so we're doing 3 tier lists. The first one is going to be set up like this. We're discussing just the range, nothing more than the range, just the range of every jab in the game, and I've broken it down into categories. The reason I have 2.11 and above as like the S tier broken jab is it's to do with round 1 start, first of all. Round 1 start, the moment you start, you can usually backdash. All you would need to do with a 2.11 jab and above is like maybe move in a bit and then try to jab, and you will hit them even if they backdash. The A tier range is not going to work like that all the time. You'll have to space it a little easier. B tier range, round 1 start, you can often hit them at the beginning. Is it dry or bugging me? Nah, babe, it's totally fine. It's cool. It is what it is. Everybody say hi to Cammy, my beloved. She's in chat, guys, so say hi. She'll be streaming on Saturday, guys. She's fucking pumped. Finally getting into a little bit more of a routine now that the holidays have come to a close, unfortunately. B tier range, typically round 1 start, you can punch them on the word, from the word go. You can land the jab, but against like Chow Yu or something, you might whiff. It depends on what the character is. Chow Yu is the character you want to test the range against, and she's also got the furthest back hitbox and the tiniest hitbox, so it's tough to hit her with jabs at the very start of a round. You have to have a pretty good jab to land at. And then finally, C tier range, you got to move in after round 1 start, and then you'll be able to land your jab. It's fucking stupid. So these are terrible jabs. So like C tier is garbage. B tier is serviceable and average jabs. A tier is a fucking great jab. And then S tier is what the fuck is this? How do these characters even have this type of jab? Next up, as a tier list, you guys can see this. We've got the range and the hitbox included in one category. Okay, so ranges and hitboxes all together. If you have S tier range, S tier hitbox, it means you have a perfect jab. Very few characters have this, but some of them, there are a few of them in the game that have that, and it's a fucked up jab. Typically, what happens when you have a perfect jab like that, you're oftentimes a really stupid strong character, and this shit can't be fucking underestimated. Jabbing is the most important tool in the game as far as offense goes. So if you have a good jab, odds are you have a really good character. Just so I understand, the character that go into say B tier is going to be ranked on the range and the vertical and horizontal. I'll explain it like this. So for this category here, for the second list we're going to be setting up, okay? It's going to be like S tier range, as we talked about a second ago, like this. They're going to be up here with the S tier range. And then their hitbox, their S tier hitbox will also include the fact that they don't lose to any of the tests that we did in the video that I'll post. Check out the jab video. It's right above me. If you're watching this later on YouTube, there's a card right there, right now. Watch the fucking jab video. It's available on YouTube. If you want to verify how the fuck I got all this data, so I'm not just arbitrarily throwing these in random fucking spots because I'm a douche like that. No. This actually is a very unique tier list because instead of it just being my subjective opinion about the characters that are in the game, this is going to be backed by hard data, tons of research and experimentation, tons of evidence. This is like as factual as you can get, okay? I'm not trying to prove a point. I have failed to disprove the point that certain jabs are shit and certain jabs are good. You know, that's basically what I seeked out to do, all right? That's all I wanted to do with this jab list, and I learned a fuck ton about the jabs. If you have a jab that's S tier hitbox, it means you beat the horizontal test and you beat both the vertical tests. If you have a jab that's an A tier hitbox, you lost the horizontal test, but you won both vertical tests. Okay? Because more things in this game crush from a downward perspective than a side swaying perspective. There are more moves in the game that will beat your jab by going under them rather than going beside them. Like, obviously jabs aren't going to track the side steps, clearly, but jabs are going to certain jabs with decent horizontal hitboxes are going to be able to beat out certain moves in the game that make the character inherently go to the side like Paul's down forward 2, right? So if you connect against Paul's down forward 2, then you have a decent horizontal hitbox, and we know that for a fact. But if you lose to his down forward 2, your horizontal hitbox sucks. There's a handful of characters in the game that have that. We'll go over all these characters in a bit and what the criteria is, but horizontal hitbox is less important than a vertical hitbox, is my point. If you have a shitty vertical hitbox, you're losing to a lot more moves. If you have a shitty horizontal hitbox, you're still losing to certain moves. It's not a perfect jab, but it's a lot more usable than a character that has a shitty vertical hitbox. So that's the criteria I set up, because there's so much shit that crushes jabs by going under them. There's a lot of moves in the game that do that. And I'm not talking like high crushing attacks. I'm talking about moves that are specifically designed to beat out jabs, right? Like Miyarizu's Hell Sweep and Bow Stance, Yoshimitsu's down forward 2, fucking Zafina's down forward 2. Stuff like that, right? Moves that beat out jabs but don't necessarily high crush entirely. Obviously, if we're going down the list from there, we've got, so the S tier hitbox means you don't lose to anything. The A tier hitbox means you lost the horizontal test but you win the vertical test. The B tier hitbox means that you won the horizontal test but you lost out on one of the vertical tests. Now, we did 2 vertical tests, one with Miyarizu and one with Yoshimitsu. The Miyarizu one is kind of a more unique crushing mechanic, whereas the Yoshimitsu test we did is a very common crushing mechanic, similar to like a Zafina down forward 2 or a June a down 1+2 projectile. That shit is going to crush certain jabs, but not other jabs, right? So, and those types of jabs of hitboxes that beat out jabs by going lower, very common. Miyarizu's way that beat out a jab by going lower is very unique, because it's like a side swiping, low, high crushing, jab crushing maneuver. It's very unique move archetype. Okay, so we're breaking it down even deeper than that. So, like I said, with the horizontal hitbox, we got Paul. With the vertical hitbox, we got Yoshimitsu and Miyarizu. But if the character beat out Yoshimitsu, they're going to beat out a lot more stuff than if they just beat out Miyarizu and then lost to Yoshimitsu, right? So the Miyarizu one is so unique that the Yoshimitsu one is preferable to beat out. If you have a jab that beats out Yoshi, it's slightly better than the jabs that beat out only Miyarizu and lose to Yoshi. Because you're going to run into the Yoshi style of crushing more often than you'll run into the Miyarizu style of crushing. Okay, this shit is getting fucking deep, alright? This is a very, very complex tier list. That's why I've taken weeks to go over this shit, right? Weeks to go over all this data, collect this evidence and this research, and now this is the culmination of all of that. We're making a tier list, and this is going to be about as objective as it gets, right? People can do other tests. They can continue this routing if they want, but I think at the end of the day, even if you test this for yourselves, which I encourage you all do, by the way, test all this shit for yourself if you don't believe me. You can watch the videos, you can check the tier list and see where all the jabs land, all the characters that have the good jabs and bad jabs, but this is going to be pretty objective. There isn't really going to be any room for opinion in this bitch. But I want to discuss this with you guys anyways, because I'd like to get your thoughts on these things. This is probably the coolest tier list I think I've ever done, because of how much fucking work has gone into this shit, and this has like been leading up to this. So I'm pretty excited about this. Almost no moves will get hit even with a good horizontal hitbox. So, yeah, exactly. A vertical hitbox is more important than a horizontal hitbox. But it's still good to have a perfect jab. If you don't lose to anything, then your jab is phenomenal and flawless, and it's probably pretty broken and might need to be addressed at some point. Like, there's only a few characters in the game I can think of that are that fucking stupid with their jabs, and we'll go over those guys in a minute. Next up, we got the final tier list that we'll be doing once we've categorized all the jabs from range to range including hitbox. You know, you got the C tier range and C tier hitbox, and we got the S tier range and S tier hitbox, so you go up and down the line all the way through this shit. Okay? And the last one here is this bitch right here. Okay, so this is what I want to end it on. This will be the final tier list of the day. Fuck, I need to put this in the proper spot. There we go. Okay, so this is like self-explanatory, right? Self-fucking-explanatory. If your jab is a perfect jab, it's broken. And if it's beyond perfect, it's broken. Like if the range is ridiculous, like over 2.11, and you don't lose to anything, like you have a perfect vertical and horizontal hitbox, your jab is broken. If you are below the if you're like 2.10 range and below, and you have a perfect hitbox, your jab is perfect. Because you don't need to have a broken jab for it to be a perfect jab, right? It might not have as much range as the broken jabs, but that's literally the only difference. Everything else is just as good. So perfect, nearly perfect, it really is only about, that's when hitboxes start to waver a little bit. That's when range gets to be a little bit below the 2.1 mark, 2.05, 2.2. 2.02, 2.00. That's around that range. Great, but slightly flawed. Again, this is where a lot of the shitty horizontal hitboxes live. In the good tier, we've got, it's a good jab. It's a serviceable jab. It does everything you want it to do. But it might have problems here and there. You might get crushed once in a while, either by horizontal or a vertical. There are some vertical jabs. There are some jabs in that list that have a shitty vertical hitbox, for example. Subpar. These jabs, there's a couple of them that are like fairly unique, and then there are other jabs that have just terrible hitboxes. Like they get crushed a lot, or their range isn't the greatest, or whatever the fuck. We'll have to figure that out. And trash is self-explanatory. It's garbage. These jabs are so bad that using them is almost a bad idea. So, and that's horrible. So I feel for all the characters in the trash category. But that's going to be the final list. And so let's start with the first list that we're going to do. Okay? You guys can see this one okay? So let's just fill out the tiers as I've written them down already, okay? So we're going to start from the C tier range. And we're going to go from there. So C tier range is range 1.90 and below, with some caveats. Okay, there are going to be some added on information on top. So in the C tier range category, we've got a few characters here. We have, first of all, Asuka. She is a broken character, yes, but she has a terrible jab in terms of range. It hits at range 1.82. Okay, next up you got Jack. Jack is unique, and these two are actually the two most unique jabs in the fucking game. Very unique jabs. Asuka's is unique in the sense of, so typically, universally, every single jab in the game, except for these two characters, the jab is +1 on block, +8 on hit. That is the universal rule. Every single jab in the game has identical frame data, except for these two. So Asuka's jab is -2 on block. It has follow-ups, and that's why it's kind of a weird, wonky jab. But the thing is, her jab being -2 on block means her return is effectively over if she jabs. And that's kind of shitty, right? Plus she's got the bad range. But it is +9 on hit, so that's a decent trade-off. It's better on hit than every other jab in the game, but it's shittier on block than every other jab in the game. And I think, personally, if something is shittier on block, it's a shittier jab. So, to me, the range for these characters is irrelevant because the frame data says a lot, okay? Jack doesn't have a classic jab. Jack's jab is like, is like a forward 2, 10 frame, right? That's his 10 frame. Or you have his 11 frame standing 2, which has a wonky hitbox, and then you have his 12 frame 1, which has no range. It's actually at 1.90. His standing jab is 12 frames, but the trade-off is it goes into a plus on block mid, and it's a 12 frame punish for him. Jack just doesn't have a jab, so we're gonna rank his forward 2 being punishable on block, but doing more damage and having a lot more range than any other jab you see noted here. It's in a wonky category, but because he doesn't really have a jab to speak of, and he's working with significantly fewer tools in that regard than every other character in the game, I gotta put Jack in this C tier range category, and the fact that his standing jab is 1.90 it puts him in this spot. So Asuka's here, Jack is here. They're both pretty garbage in that regard. Next up, we're gonna put June in there. June's jab hits at range 1.84. So not bad in that regard, but it's, you know, it's we'll talk more about hers in a little bit. It's a lot better than you think. Just because it has shitty range doesn't mean it's a bad jab. We'll talk about that later. Next up is Kazuya. 1.90 he hits at, very subpar, and we'll talk a lot more about Kazuya's jab later. It's brutal. So next up we have Lee, and Lee's jab is also pretty gutter trash. Bad range, bad horizontal hitbox. Amazing vertical hitbox though. So it's like a very, I would say Lee's jab is, because the range is so shit. Again, Lee hits at the same range as June, 1.84, not very good. That's a shitty range. That's a fucking shitty range. Lee's got bad range, a decent vertical hitbox, bad horizontal hitbox. Same thing applies with Steve. We're gonna throw him in here now. Steve hits at 1.86, yeah. So he's slightly more range than Lee. So Steve is decent, but also suffers with from a lot of problems with his horizontal hitbox. Zafina's next. She hits at range 1.88, so not bad for the range, but also far from great. Anything, like I said, 1.9 and below, horrible jab. You don't want to have a jab like one of these guys. These guys all have subpar jabs. So approaching in the neutral with these guys, they require a different tool that's not necessarily their jab. Fortunately, a lot of them have really good down forward ones. Like Zafina, Steve, Lee, June, Asuka, they all have fairly decent down forward ones. Okay, next up we have Eddie. Eddie hits at range 1.84. It's hard to quantify Eddie because Eddie's just dancing around all the fucking time, but it seemed to me when I was able to, I tested it like a dozen fucking times over and over and over again, and every time I would land the jab, it seemed to whiff consistently over 1.85, so 1.84, yeah. Boy, Kaz standing there with a 15 frame down forward one. Yeah, he's just, it's too bad. He doesn't have a down forward one or a jab. It's pretty shitty. So Eddie's jab is decent, but it has a phenomenal hitbox, but it doesn't have good range. So we're just worrying about the ranges right now. And next up, we're going to throw in Anna and Miyarizu. So Anna hits at range 1.87 from what I saw, and Miyarizu hits at range 1.89. So all these jabs, Anna's got a wonky hitbox in some areas. Miyarizu's hitbox is way better. But all these jabs are C tier, not very good. These two, again, are very unique, like I said. These guys are all similar in how bad their jab is. Some of them are far worse than others. It really depends on the character. We'll have to talk more about that when we get into the deeper parts of this video in the next list. Okay, so that's the C tier. These are all the characters with a C tier jab range. Doesn't mean their jab sucks. Let's be real clear here. Range is not the only factor in having a good jab. In fact, it's like, maybe it's the most important, maybe it's not. We can discuss that a bit more. So now we're going to move on to the B tier. B tier, we're going to start it off with Alisa. So 1.91 range and above. Okay? So Alisa is the first character on the list. She hits at range 1.98. So she's like the higher category of this list. Then we've got Claudio. He hits at 1.94. And then we've got Hwarang. Hits at 1.93. And then Jin, who's probably the best in this category at 1.99. Maybe just under a couple of characters, I think. 1.99 for Jin. Very fucking strong jab. What else we got? King. King's got a great jab. His jab is solid in terms of range. He hits at 2.0. That's a solid jab. Every character in the game, round one start, King throws a jab, he's gonna hit them on block every fucking time, no matter what. So, solid fucking jab that way. Let's see, Lars hits at 1.98, just like Alisa does. They have similar jabs, funnily enough, because they're Tekken 6 anime bitches. Fucking hate those characters. Law's jab is 1.96. We're gonna put it there. Leroy, also 1.96 for the range. Nina's 1.92. Solid jab, but definitely in the lower area of this range here. She's she's got a weird jab. There's a lot to say about Nina's stuff, so we'll go over her stuff later. Paul, same thing. He is in the 1.96 category, I think, again. Raven, we got another 1.92 with Raven. Reina is fucking phenomenal. Hers is 1.97. She's got a great fucking jab. Shaheen, solid jab, but I think his is also 1.92 if I'm not mistaken. Let me check that out. Shaheen's hitting at 1.92. Xiaoyu is hitting at 1.95. Believe it or not, Xiaoyu's got more range in her fucking jab than like most of the male characters on this list. It's crazy. Or not most of them, but a good chunk of them. Like more range than Claudio, more range than Shaheen, more range than Huarong. You know, more range than Raven. It's crazy. Xiaoyu hits further away with her jab than they do. It's funny. She's so tiny, but she's more effective than people think. Yoshimitsu hits at 1.94. Solid little jab. Has a wonky hitbox, but it's not bad. And then Lydia has one of the best female jabs in the game. I think it's actually the second best female jab in the game, period. Lydia's jab is fucking phenomenal. The range, again, not necessarily bad, because she does hit at range 2.0. She's very fucking... Like, the hitbox is incredible, the range is great. Like, Lydia's jab is fucking fantastic. So, next up, we got the A-tier category. This is range 2.01 to 2.10, okay? We're going to start off with Azucena. She hits at range 2.05, if I'm not a dumbass. 2.05. So Azucena's got a crazy good jab. Next up we have Brian, who is at range 2.06. He's got some of the best range jab in the game, actually. Brian's jab is fucking phenomenal. He's just got a bit of a wonky hitbox, but he's solid as fuck besides that. But yeah, Azucena has a lot of range in her jab. It's crazy, actually. Like, I think she may be the longest range jab for all the females. I'm not sure. Let's verify that. I know she hits further away than Lydia. Yeah, actually, Azucena has the longest range jab in the entire female cast. Fun fact. She has the longest... Doesn't mean she has the best jab in the female cast. We'll talk about who has the best jab in the female cast later. But she is up there, for sure. Her jab is super far hitting. Okay, so next up we have Devil Jin. Funnily enough, Devil Jin's jab, as trash as it is, and it is bad. It is bad, but it's not bad in the sense that he's got bad range, because it does hit at range 2.04. His jab is pretty solid that way. Surprised Devil Jin's jab is that good? It's not. It's a terrible jab. It's just got a lot of range. It's 2.04 range. Like I said though, a long-range jab does not necessarily imply that it's a good fucking jab. I mean, it does help a lot, but if it gets crushed by fucking everything, then who gives a shit if it's got a lot of range, right? But Devil Jin's jab is trash. Like, let's be real. Reina, I think, has a real good jab while adding her. Her jab is fucking crazy good. Crazy good. Reina's got one of the best female jabs in the game. One of the best jabs in the game. Her jab is amazing. But we'll go over all that stuff in a minute. Like, this is just the list number 1. This is only for range. We're gonna go over range and hitbox properties in the next list, and then after that, we're gonna sum it all up into one list, and we're gonna make it a complete jab tier list in terms of all the categories we've already gone over. So we're going to break this all down into bits and pieces. Okay. So what do we got here? Next up is Devil Jin Kuma. Okay, Kuma is next on the list. And of course, I'm going to go through this real quick. So Kuma, Lily, and Panda. Kuma and Panda have slightly different jabs in animation as how they look, but the properties are identical. As far as I could tell, in all the tests I did, Kuma and Panda have the exact same jab. So both the bears hit at range 2.06. So their range is phenomenal. And Lily hits at range 2.04. So Lily's jab, so far, is the second best jab in terms of range for the females, only after Azucena. She's got the most range for the females. Lily has the second most, but it's by 0.1 of a factor. It's not even much. But Kuma and Panda both have 2.06 range jabs. Fucking phenomenal. That's a crazy good jab. That's right up there with Brian. Brian's jab is also insanely good. Victor is the next one up. He's at 2.05. So another super solid jab. We'll talk about Victor's a little later. Victor's got a unique sense in that he's got a weapon extending his jab hitbox a bit, so it makes it hard to crush his jab with a lot of moves in the game. So Victor has a bit of an advantage that way. We'll discuss that more when we talk about the jab tier list a bit later on. Heihachi's next, 2.04. Single best Mishima jab in the game, and it's not even close. Not only does his jab hit at longer range than every other Mishima's jab in the game, well, he's tied with Deviljin in terms of range. Both of them hit at 2.04. But Deviljin's has no hitbox, has no solid hitbox. Heihachi's has a perfect solid hitbox. And his starts a wall-splatting 10-frame punish at the wall. So, like, all factors considered, Heihachi's jab is phenomenal and easily the best jab in the Mishimas. And it's a damn good reason why you should pick him up if you're a Mishima player. Because having a good jab as a Mishima is so fucking incredibly valuable. You don't even, not even a Mishima, just having a good jab in this game is some of the most important shit you could possibly have. Because it's the most usable and most often occurring tool in the game. Everybody jabs. It's such an important thing to do. Jab checking. Even if it's just to steal your turn back because they're +1 on block. You know? Jab checking is almost never a bad idea, and if you have a jab that's never going to get crushed by shit, then you're on a winning team. Heihachi's jab is that. It's phenomenal. Clive is another one with a stupid fucking good jab. It's a range 2.03. Very easy to abuse. His jab is diabolical. Yeah, absolutely, man. Reina's jab is incredible, but it still pales in comparison to Heihachi's. Her dad's jab beats the fuck out of hers. Even if hers is better than Deviljin's and a fuck ton better than Kazuya's, doesn't matter, because Heihachi's shitting on all of them. All of them are bowing down to this dude's jab. It's next fucking level. So anyways, Clive, 2.03. So next up we got Armor King. Armor King's range is phenomenal. 2.10 on this entire list. So far, everybody we've written down, Armor King has the furthest range on his jab. His jab is fucking insanely good. He literally just makes the cusp on this A tier. He's at 2.1 exactly. So Armor King's phenomenal. But we'll talk about his hitbox a bit later because his hitbox is interesting. So anyways, finally we got the S tier range. This shit is, like, these characters are fucking stupid. I don't know how to even talk about them. First is Dragunov. Fuck, man. Insane. His 2.20 perfect hitbox. What the fuck? This guy's jab is insane. Insane. The same thing can be said about Feng. 2.16 range. Exact same hitbox as Dragunov. These two guys are fucked up with their jabs. Funny enough, Leo is almost as bad. 2.14 is the range. Leo's, this puny little bitch-ass character, hits further away with their jab than this beast does. Like, anybody on this list. Any freaking character. This little fucking thing here hits from 2.14 with their jab. And I don't even want to talk about their fucking hitbox. Then you got Fakumram, which, I mean, no shock to anybody. No shock to anybody. No, Fakumram hits at 2.23. So, Fakumram is the king, the undisputable king of jab range. If you want a ranged character, Fakumram's range is disgusting, and it's not just with his jab. He's got fucking range out the ass. It is so hard to hit this fucking character. He's extremely extremely underrated right now. I think fucking Ram is way stronger than people think. His jab hits at 2.23, dude. Stupid. Is he a boy or a girl? He's non-binary. Regardless, is this list? This is one list. I'm doing 3. So this is just the range, okay? We're only speaking about range in this list. This list, though, we're going to be talking about range and fucking hitboxes, as you see there, right? Range and hitboxes. So anyways, we are going to start with the S tier range, S tier hitbox explanations and all this shit. What is this? What does this all fucking mean? Well, according to the tests we did, if your hitbox is S tier, then it didn't lose a single thing. You didn't lose the horizontal test, you didn't lose either of the vertical tests, and you've got S tier range like we just went over. So if you want to reference this thing to go into what this tier list means for A tier range, A tier, B tier range, that type of shit, this is what I'm talking about, okay? S tier range, A tier range, B tier range, C tier range, okay? That's why we have it going up and down like this. S tier range, B tier hitbox. The reason I have no A tier hitbox and the S tier range category is because there is no character with an A tier range, or an A tier hitbox in the S tier range category. So we'll start with this. Dragunov, obviously, is first candidate we've got, and we've got Fang, and we've got Leo, okay? So these characters all have S tier range and S tier hitboxes, okay? In other words, these guys hit the furthest with their jabs, and they don't get crushed by fucking shit. So they have perfect jabs. And in fact, beyond perfect. Absolutely beyond perfect. Because they not only do they not get crushed by anything, but they hit so fucking far away. Like, what is the weakness to these fucking jabs? They're amazing. Next up, we've got fucking Ram in the S tier, B tier. S tier range, B tier hitbox. The reason it's a B tier hitbox, if I look at my notes again, we've got the B tier hitbox means it only lost to one vertical test, and it won the horizontal test. The reason Fakumram is B tier hitbox is because he lost to Miyarizu in the vertical test, but he beat out Yoshimitsu. So he's got a better jab for that reason, because if you beat Yoshimitsu and lose to Miyarizu, that's better than if you beat out Miyarizu and lose to Yoshimitsu. Because Yoshimitsu's style of crushing is more common in this game than Miyarizu's style of crushing with the test that we did for her. So there's Fakumram in that list. We got, next up is the A tier range and S tier hitbox. So it's got a perfect hitbox, but the range is a little bit shittier than these guys, okay? So their range is the best, but these guys in A tier, S tier are going to be still incredibly fucking, their jabs are almost perfect. So we got Kuma, Lily, which is fucked up. Lily's jab is insane. Panda. Victor Heihachi Clive. Okay. So again, perfect hitbox. Didn't lose to anything. Lily's jab is quite crappy, right? No. Lily has the single best female jab in the game. Her jab hits at range 2.04, and it has, so that's A tier range, and it has an S tier hitbox. Means it didn't lose a single test in terms of crushing. So it won't get crushed by shit, and it's got amazing range. She has the best jab in the game for all the women. Lily's jab is incredible. In fact, all female jabs are really fucking good in one way or another. All women in the game have insane jabs on some level. Next up, we have the A tier range, A tier hitbox. So A tier is cool here because we've got a representative in all categories. So we've got A tier range, S tier hitbox, A tier hitbox, B tier hitbox, and C tier hitbox. So you got a good idea of what the requirements are to make these make this type of list. So the only character in this spot with A tier range and A tier hitbox is Brian. The reason he's got an A tier hitbox and not an S tier hitbox is because he failed the horizontal test, which is not as bad as if he failed a vertical test. A vertical test failure is like, we'll break it down like this. If you lose to Paul, your hitbox is A tier. If you beat Paul, but you lose to Miyarizu, and then you beat Yoshimitsu, your hitbox is like a B+ tier. If you beat Paul, beat Miyarizu, but lose to Yoshimitsu, your hitbox is like a B tier. Because Yoshimitsu, again, his type of crushing that we did with down forward 2 is the most common jab crushing style move in the game. So losing to Yoshi means you're going to lose to a lot more shit too. So whereas losing to Miyarizu, you lose to a lot less stuff than if you were to get crushed by Yoshimitsu. So you want to lose to Paul and beat Miyarizu and Yoshi, or you want to beat Paul and lose to Miyarizu and beat Yoshi. Either way, your jab hitbox is decent, but I would rather have a vertical hitbox than a horizontal one. That's the whole point with this argument here, because a lot more shit is going to crush from going in a downward trajectory instead of a sideways trajectory. That shit is not as common. So Brian's is almost as good as these guys, but his horizontal hitbox lost to Paul, so we have to make him A tier hitbox. And next up we have A tier range, B tier hitbox. We've got Azucena, and we've got Armor King. What that means, as I just explained, Azucena having a B tier hitbox and Armor King having a B tier hitbox. Both of these characters lost to, I think, Yoshimitsu, right? Yeah, both characters lost to Yoshimitsu, but they beat out Miyarizu, so they have a little bit of crushing, or they have a little bit of a vertical hitbox in their jab, but not much, not as much as like anybody above them, really. So they lose to Yoshimitsu, which is not the character you want to lose to. You want to lose to Miyarizu if you're going to lose a vertical test, but they lost to Yoshimitsu, so their vertical hitbox is not as strong as you would like it to be. But it's still a super solid jab. They still have incredible range, both of them do, and they have a phenomenal horizontal hitbox, and your jab isn't going to get crushed by everything, but it will lose to some things. So they have a great horizontal hitbox, these two, but their vertical hitbox is somewhat skewered. So not as good as Brian's, slightly shittier. C tier hitbox, A tier range. The only character in this category is Devil Jin. So his hitbox is trash in terms of verticality because he lost to both Miyarizu and Yoshimitsu. He's one of only 2 characters that can say that. Every other character in the 40-character roster beat either both of them or at least one of them. But only Devil Jin and one other character we'll talk about later lost to both of them. So his vertical hitbox is non-existent. Devil Jin doesn't have a vertical hitbox in his jab. It's trash. And that's a horrible thing to lack in your jab. You want to not get crushed every time you fucking throw a jab out, but Devil Jin's gonna die a lot. So Devil Jin's jab is pretty bad for that reason. Even if his range is super solid and his horizontal hitbox is solid, the fact that his vertical hitbox doesn't exist is actually a lot more of a detriment than you'd even think. Jiayu's jab seems crap. It's not. It's very fucking good. Jiayu's got an amazing jab. Next up, we got B tier range with an S tier hitbox. So again, the S tier hitboxes, reiterate, means you're not losing to shit. Okay, your hitbox isn't losing to fucking shit. All right, you hit everything. So what we're gonna start with Claudio Lars Law. Leroy Raven Reina. Leroy Raven Reina. And finally, we've got Chao Yu, Speak of the Devil, and Lydia. Lydia's jab is phenomenal. So, The reason that Xiaoyu is on that list is because, yeah, she's in the B tier range, which is fine for her range. It's still solid. She still hits at 1.95. What this means here with this category, B tier range, S tier hitbox. So the range hits below 2.01. Okay, so round one start, you're often going to still connect with them on a round one start if you throw a jab at the beginning of the round, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to connect. It's wonky in the terms of range, but in terms of hitbox, you're never going to fucking get crushed. Like Lydia, for example, has a fucking incredible jab. Incredible jab, right? So, 2.00 range, and it doesn't lose to anything. S tier hitbox means you're perfect. It loses to nothing. You beat out the horizontal test and both the vertical tests. You're amazing. So these characters all have that level jab. So these guys are doing fucking great with their jabs. Okay, next up, we have the B tier range, A tier hitbox. I think there's only one character in that category too, and that's Nina. Funny enough, Nina's jab is not that crazy strong in terms of all things considered. A tier hitbox, so we again went over what that means. It means that they lose to the horizontal test, but you beat the vertical tests. You beat both of them. There is no character in the game that loses to the horizontal test and the vertical test. If you have a decent horizontal jab, you're not going to lose to the horizontal test and the vertical test. There is no jab in the game that has that. So it's all good. That's why I just made an A tier hitbox category. Because again, if your character loses the horizontal test but wins the vertical tests, then it's an A tier. If it loses if it beats the horizontal test but loses a vertical test, then it's B tier. And if it loses the both vertical tests, both of them, not just one, which is B tier, but if it loses both vertical tests, it's C tier. It might win the horizontal test, so I can't give it an F tier or a D tier, because it still wins the horizontal test. But a C tier is still pretty shit because it loses the most important aspect of the jab, in my opinion, which is the fucking vertical shit. If you're getting crushed all the time, it's a bad jab. So yeah, Nina's unique that way. Great vertical jab, somewhat decent range-ish, kind of, whatever. Not the greatest, in fact. Yeah, I retract that statement. Her range is not the best, but it's okay. And it's got a really good vertical hitbox. So Nina's jab is fine. It's serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it. Next up, we got B tier range and B tier hitbox. So now these are the characters that are losing to at least one of the vertical tests. And we're going to kind of order this one in a little bit more of a fashion because this is kind of interesting here. We have Hwarang in the front. Actually, no, we've got Paul in the front. I want to order these in exact order. So this is now the exact order of these jabs. These jabs are B tier range, S tier hitbox, and then I ordered them in terms of how good their range is. Okay? So now we've got all this shit sorted out. Next up we have Shaheen. And then we've got B tier range, B tier hitbox. So we got Alisa is next. No, sorry, Jin is next. Jin, then Alisa. Oh, fuck. King is actually above Jin. So King, then Jin, then Alisa. Then Yoshimitsu. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And this is ordered, again. So these guys are in complete perfect order. So the reason that I have Paul, Hwarang, and Shaheen in the front is because Shaheen, Hwarang, and Paul, these guys all lost to Miyarizu, but they beat Yoshimitsu. So their jabs, vertical hitbox, is better than King, Jin, Alisa, and Yoshi, who all lost to Yoshimitsu and beat out Miyarizu. So they're all B-tier jab hitboxes, because they both lost to one of the tests each, but it's important to know that there is a bit of a discrepancy there. Whereas Dragunov, I just picked him up. Dragunov is right up here. Dragunov is number one on the fucking list. I'm gonna spoil it right now. He's the best jab in the game. There is no question about it. Dragunov is fucked up. His jab is so stupid, and we'll go over that in a minute. I'm gonna sort this all out in a minute. So, okay. B tier range, B tier hitbox. This is in order of how good the jabs are, right? These are all in order so far. For this specific list category, then we're going to break it down even more in terms of utility and everything, and we're going to fill out this list, which is the definitive, final, here's where all the jabs land as with all the factors included, and here's how good they are. Here you go, final list. But this is just working out their hitboxes in tandem with their range, nothing else. Okay, so that's why it's listed as it is. Finally, we got the C tier range, S tier hitbox. Weird category. So the range is shit, but they don't lose to any type of crushing at all. So even though their range is bad, their hitbox is phenomenal. So they're going to be a little higher on the final tier list, even if they're down here on this list, right? So let's go. Let's start it up. S plus tier list is these jabs don't get crushed by anything. First you got Asuka, you got Jack, then you got these two again are unique, very unique, and that's going to be a caveat in the next list coming up. So when that happens, yes, they've got an S tier hitbox, but it doesn't fucking matter because they're very unique and their jabs are inherently shittier than everybody else's on this list because of the frame data involved, right? So, due to the frame data, with these two jabs specifically, they're going to be lower on the list than other characters that might be in the same category as them right now. Like June, for example. Doesn't get crushed by anything, but the range isn't very good. Same with Zafina, same with Eddie, same with Miyarizu. These characters don't get crushed by shit. They passed all the tests, but they have shitty range. C tier range, A tier hitbox. That means that it gets crushed by only the horizontal, not the vertical. Okay? Again. So they lose to the Paul test, but they beat the Yoshimitsu and the Miyarizu test. And that is only these characters. So we got Anna, Steve, and Lee in that order. I actually want to order this too. Let's order this real quick. B tier range, S tier hitbox. Let's put June. Yeah, that's ordered there perfectly. This is ordered here. C tier range, A tier hitbox. So these guys lose the horizontal test, but they win the vertical test. So there's no crushing these guys with vertical crushing, but there's certainly crushing if you're Paul. So, or it's another character like Paul. And then finally, you got C tier range, C tier hitbox. Kazuya gets crushed. He lost both vertical tests. He's the only other character besides Devil Jin that lost both vertical tests. That's crazy. So he has no vertical hitbox at all, and his range is shit. So, there you go. This is the definitive list. I hope that covers things up so far. And then finally we're going to break it down and go into the final list and rank the actual jabs and how good they are. The final list, I have it as broken, which is just, there is no weakness to the jab. It's always a good idea to do it. So right off the bat, best jab in the game is Dragunov. Next up is Fang, and then I would say Leo is following suit after that. These characters have perfect jabs, and beyond perfect. They hit from a ridiculous range. They complement their move list so incredibly heavily. So these are the best jabs in the game. Okay, broken jabs. These jabs are fucked up. And it makes sense because these three characters are arguably some of the most broken characters in the game too. Dragunov and Leo specifically are insane right now. Absolutely fucked. And their jab has a lot to do with it. They're very, very strong jabs. Feng is not quite as strong as Dragunov or Leo, but he's still way up there, and his jab has a lot to do with it. Perfect jabs. We've got Kuma. We have Panda. We've got Victor. And again, this is in order. So I'm not just throwing this shit out arbitrarily. This is the order I placed it in last night. Heihachi, then we've got Lily, and then we've got Clive, and finally Fakumrav. Now, there's a bit of a disclaimer here with the Fakamram jab. The Fakamram jab's range is phenomenal, and he wins the horizontal test, and he beat Yoshimitsu in the vertical test. But he does lose to Miyarizu in the vertical test. So his vertical hitbox is kind of iffy, sort of dubious at best, right? Whereas every other character we've listed so far has a perfect hitbox. Nobody on this list so far gets crushed by anything except for Fakumram in very specific situations. Fakumram gets crushed by only Miyarizu's test. So I think because his hitbox is the wonkiest of the bunch, even though his range is the best in the game at 2.23, best range in the game, indisputable. You can't argue that. Even better than Dragunov's. Dragunov's range is bullshit and insanely busted. But Fakamram's range is even stronger, yet his hitbox is a little wonkier than everybody else's here. So I'm kind of forced to put him in perfect. And I'm kind of forced to put him at the bottom of perfect. Because I would rather have a reliable jab that's never going to get crushed than a jab that may get crushed, even though it's got insane range. You know, I think hitbox is overall the most important aspect. So Fakamram, it's still a perfect jab. It's just... It has some scenarios that brings it down a little bit. Very specific scenarios. So you have to factor that in. But the range makes up for the fact that it does get crushed sometimes. So you have to, all things considered, perfect is probably a good spot. Bottom of perfect. Then we got nearly perfect. So we got Lydia. We got Reina. We have Lars. Where the fuck is that bitch? There he is. We have Law, Leroy, Xiaoyu, Claudio, Raven. Okay. Leroy, Xiaoyu, Claudio, and Raven. This is also in order of range and the fact that none of these guys get crushed by anything. Right, all these jabs don't get crushed by they pass the test, the hitbox test with flying fucking colors, and they have above average range. They're all above the 1.9 level, 1.90, 1.91 range. They're above that level, and they don't get crushed by a damn fucking thing. So, of course, the best jab on this list is Lydia's at 2.00 in terms of range. That's why this is the nearly perfect spot. So all these jabs, you can basically say they're as good as these guys. The range is the only changing factor. That's the only thing that makes them down here instead of up here. The beyond 2.01 range with these guys makes them fucking scary with their jabs. But this shit is almost as good, just not quite as doesn't have as much utility in terms of range. Next up, we have the great but slightly flawed list. So this is where the hitboxes are no longer perfect, right? Fakamram's the only one with a slightly flawed hitbox on this list. Yeah, it's a jab tier list, Doc. But it's still so insignificantly flawed that it's basically perfect. So every jab on this list is essentially perfect. And then you get up to the great slightly flawed jabs. This is when the hitbox is going to start to play a factor. So this is when things start to change. Their hitboxes are either shitty in terms of horizontal hitbox, or they lose a vertical test or something, right? So right off the bat, we have Brian at the top of this list. Then we have Azucena. Then we have Armor King. Then we have Jun, Zafina, Eddie, and Miyarizu. And that's it for great and slightly flawed. The thing about this jab, this category, is that Feng is up there. Feng's jab is insane. Yeah, as you see here, Feng is broken. His jab is fucked up. So, with Brian, he's at the top of this list because the only test he failed was the horizontal test. He didn't fail a single vertical test. Armor King and Azucena failed vertical tests, so they're up here in this area. They're great but slightly flawed. They only failed against against Yoshimitsu. They didn't fail against Miyarizu. So they're still going to get crushed by some things here and there. So it's definitely a worse jab than Brian's. And then these guys have terrible range, but they're a perfect hitbox. So it really is a solid mix. You could honestly order these characters any way you like, but their range is super shit. These guys. So let's put it in actual order here. We've got Miyarizu, then Zafina, and then June, and then Eddie. That's where I think these should go. So that's the great slightly flawed jab. So they, again, only lost either one test or their range is very subpar. Then you've got a good jab. These jabs are serviceable. They're everything you need them to be. They're nothing special to write home about, but they're reliable on some level, and I think that you could even, like, you could say they're good jabs. They're good jabs. These are solid. There's nothing wrong with these jabs. They just lose a couple of tests here and there. So we got King, we got Nina, we got Paul, we got Hwarang, we got Shahid, we got Jin, Alisa, and Yoshimitsu. Okay, these characters all have good jabs. Nothing wrong with their jab. They lose some things. King's range is phenomenal. 2.00 his jab hits at. So he's got a lot of range on his jab. But it does get crushed by Yoshimitsu. So he did lose one vertical test. So his hitbox is kind of wonky for that reason. However, his range being 2.00 is so strong that I have to put him up here. Because he beats out Miyarizu, he beats out Paul with the horizontal test, he loses to Yoshimitsu with the vertical test. That's a pretty big factor, but the range makes up for that. So 2.00 range, I gotta put King up here. Nina, again, horizontal test she lost, but her vertical jab is phenomenal. Although she hits at 1.92, so it's not the best in terms of range, but she's got a great vertical hitbox, so I gotta put her up here. Paul hits a 1.96. Lost to Miyarizu, but beat out Yoshimitsu. Same with Hwarang, same with Shahid. This guy hits a 1.96, 1.93, 1.92. So these guys have a decent, very decent vertical hitbox, super solid horizontal hitbox, and decent range. Jin loses to Yoshimitsu and hits a 1.99. So these guys beat out Yoshimitsu. He loses to Yoshi. She loses to Yoshi. He loses to himself. Yoshi does. So these guys are below these guys because you'd much rather lose to Miyarizu, which they do, than you would to Yoshimitsu, which they do. Okay, like I cleared up already. Next up we have the subpar jabs. Okay, so these jabs are all good, like I said. Either super good range, but a somewhat iffy hitbox. Somewhat decent range, but a really decent hitbox. You know, semi-solid hitboxes, but whatever range, and less than solid hitboxes, but you know, whatever range to really good range, depends. Like, it's all over the map. These ones you could also order any way you like. I put King at the top because of the range, but honestly, you can swap these around how you like. I do genuinely feel like Jin, Alisa, and Yoshi are at the bottom. So the subpar jabs, we're going to start with Devil Jin, Asuka, and Jack. Devil Jin's jab is subpar, and again, this is all in order. This is very specific. I'm putting this out in order. So Devil Jin's jab is subpar. It has great range. Okay, the range is fucking A tier. But that's it, and it has a solid horizontal hitbox. But it's getting crushed by every fucking jab-crushing move in the fucking game. It has no vertical hitbox at all. So if you think, oh, this move shouldn't jab crush, it probably still does to Devil Jin's jab. You know, it's crazy to think, like, what the... he just has no hitbox, vertically speaking. So it's subpar. It is not a good jab. The only thing good about it is the range, and even then, it's kind of... That's kind of not even that big of a huge... It's not that big of a factor. Range is not the most important factor. Overall, maybe. I don't know. I have to reassess that. But and then Asuka's jab, like we talked about, is -2 on block, +9 on hit. So, and you're not going to be hitting with it as often as you're going to be getting it blocked. Asuka's jab doesn't get crushed by anything, so it's solid for that reason. but the range is terrible and the frame data is terrible. So, Asuka's jab, not very good. You want to use a jab to take your turn back. You don't want to use a jab and then be minus. That sucks. Same thing applies to Jax. He's got wonky hitboxes with... He's all over the fucking place. Forward 2 is his 10 frame. So, you have to discuss forward 2. That's got great hitbox all across the map, and it's got amazing range, but it's unsafe on block. So it's like a 10 frame jab, quote unquote, even though it's not a jab. That's unsafe on block. So if he doesn't gets it blocked, he gets punished for it. So you have to test his 2 jab, which loses to Paul's down forward 2. So the vertical or the horizontal hitbox of his 2 jab is not very good. And then on top of that, you got his 1 jab, which has shit range, even if it has good extensions. So all across the board, Jack is a very unique specimen. But it's just, he's got subpar tools in terms of a jab. Same with Asuka, and same with Devilgen. These are all very unique characters in their jabs. Unique shit. Unique trash. But still better than the actual trash category, which is this one right here. We got Anna, Steve, Lee, and Kazuya. These are the worst jabs in the fucking game. Amazing to think that Anna's is bad. The trade-off with Anna is that she has a 2 jab that's also 10 frames, so any kind of hitbox discrepancies she has, like losing to Paul's down forward 2, is rectified with her 2 jab because it's also 10 frames. So, she's pretty lucky. But her jab, her single 1 jab by itself, loses to the horizontal test. Same with Steve, same with Lee. These guys lose the horizontal test, but their vertical tests pass with flying colors. Pass with flying fucking colors, right? Steve's jab is 1.86 it hits. It loses the horizontal test, but it has an amazing vertical hitbox. 1.84, Lee's jab hits that. It loses the horizontal test, but again, amazing vertical hitbox. So, these guys aren't so bad, because they're not going to get crushed as often, but good luck fucking landing the jab, because they don't hit very far in. Why is Steve trash? I don't fucking know, man. Ask the devs, why is his jab bad? He's a boxer, it shouldn't be bad. And then you got Kazuya. Definitively. The worst jab in the game, no question about it. His range is shit. It's a C tier range. And his hitbox, he lost both vertical tests. Both of them. Him and Devilgen are the only characters that lost both vertical tests. Fucking crazy. So he has no vertical hitbox to speak of. That's so bad. So, there's no question about it. Kazuya has the worst jab in the game. Steve is barely better than him, only because his vertical hitbox is slightly better. Sorry, Lee, I meant not Steve. Steve is a little better than that, and then Anna's better still, but she has a 2 jab to fall back on that's also 10 frames fast. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world for her jab to be where it is. Honestly, I'm not surprised to see Paul being mediocre in every aspect in every tier list anyone has ever made. What do you mean? He's not. He's good. He's got good shit. Paul is like a solid mid-tier character. There's nothing wrong with Paul. He's fine. The issue isn't Paul. It's all the other characters that need to be brought down to the level that he's currently at. In fact, even Paul can be brought down a bit. And we got different results yielding all across the board. But the only characters that lost both vertical tests are Kazuya and Devilgen. The ones that lost the horizontal test against Paul are, let's see, Brian Lee, Nina, Steve, and Anna lost the horizontal test. And then Kazuya lost both vertical tests, so did Devilgen, and then some characters lost 1 vertical test and beat the other one, or vice versa. I can say for sure the buff guy is right, it's absolute fact. I tested it while listening to the stream. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for backing me up, bro. Asuka Fair. Her jab is in a good spot for Asuka, being as busted as she is. This is after weeks of research and multiple jab videos that I made on my YouTube, and going over all this shit on stream with you guys when we did the jab test initially. This is like the ultimate formula. This is where everybody's sitting on the list. And it is completely in order. It is completely in order. Like, this is, we tested the shit out of this, that you can watch the videos for yourselves and verify this shit. If you're upset about any of these placements, Don't fucking look at me. This is not my opinion. This is after extensive research and coming up with a formula that I thought made sense. Because obviously, what would you rather have? A vertical hitbox or a horizontal hitbox? I would rather have a vertical hitbox because a lot more shit crushes this way than things that crush this way, right? And no jab is going to track to a sidestepping opponent. So a vertical or a horizontal hitbox that's that big is irrelevant. That shit doesn't even exist. Horizontal hitbox specifically pertains to moves that move the character inherently out of the way, whether left or right. It depends, right? So, and those moves are few and far between. They're not very common in the game, but they do exist. So a horizontal hitbox is important to have on your jab, but it's not nearly as important as a vertical hitbox, which is why Kazuya is under 3 other characters that have a shit horizontal hitbox. Even though his horizontal hitbox is great, his vertical hitbox is gutter trash, and they have a phenomenal vertical hitbox. So clearly they have to be above him on the list. That's a good way to sum it up. And then everything else in this list is 100%. There is not really a debate. Like I don't see anybody disputing this. You can totally test this for yourselves. I highly recommend doing it. Test the shit out of this for yourself. But this is basically where your guys are going to end up. You might have a couple of characters in a different spot if you do some more testing. I don't know where you're going to be at, but this is the jab list. This is, if you want a reference, if you want to know how good your character's jab is, check this list, and I hope that helps. Thanks for watching on YouTube in the future. Much love, and keep rocking out, keep gaming.